Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new YouTube video podcast thing. And today's guest is Alyssa. And I am so excited for our episode today because we are going to talk about how to deal with the people in your life and your loved ones who do not understand the changes that you are making in your life, that do not understand your journey and your pursuit of your goals and your dreams. So let's welcome Alyssa on our channel. Alyssa, would you like to introduce yourself to our viewers?
Sure. So yes, I don't, anybody who has an undefined ego center in human design, if you're familiar with that, you'll probably resonate. I feel like this changes and I still like the things that come out of my mouth. I'm still unsure. Is this who I really am? I don't know. It's forever shifting. So if you have an undefined ego center in human design, you'll resonate. But anyways, who am I in this specific moment? I am a spiritual entrepreneur who is certified in mindset coaching. I was initially in mediumship and it just one thing led to another. So I'm essentially, I guess what I should also say is I'm from Canada, Saskatchewan, Canada, if you want to get even more specific. And I really lead women to their sovereignty, to their power, to their inner wisdom, to really help them understand their barriers and what's getting in between what it is that they truly desire. And it really initially started with helping them find that path in their life. But I know another deep calling of mine is to really help guide women in their infertility journey, because infertility is at their high, like at an all-time high. And I know it really stems from being out of alignment, but also there's so many things that we consume every day that really helps or hurts us in our infertility as well. So I'm here for all women to support them in their journey of finding their sovereignty, finding their power, because we hold such an innate wisdom within. And it's really powerful when we can tap into that. But to get there is a whole nother journey in itself. But it's pretty freaking rewarding when you get to that point of doing and not doing, living a life that you absolutely freaking love, living a life that you're in love with.
Yeah, wow. I love everything that you said. And just for the memo, Alyssa is an amazing coach. I had a session with her, and to this day, I think about our session so often. Really, like you've completely shifted my perspective in this time that we had together. And this was actually such a motivation for me to do like this podcast or YouTube video episode with you, because in our session we were talking a lot about this topic of how to deal with loved ones who are really close and dear to your heart, who don't really understand your spiritual growth or your spiritual path. Because it's true, like as you said, we are like changing beings, and especially when you embark on this life-changing event of creating your own business and growing spiritually and healing, and when you essentially start looking for who it is that you really truly are, then you change. And it can be so difficult for the people who knew the old you to understand the new person that you have become, and for you as well to accept the people in the way that they are with your new perception of the world. Because it's not only that the people close to me, they are like, what the fuck is wrong with this girl? Like, who is she? What is this? I mean, a second ago, she was a doctor relying on classical medicine, and now she's doing all this woo-woo stuff. And so that's like the one part of the huge misunderstanding. But there's also the second part of me who has such a hard time sometimes to understand the people around me. And I wish sometimes that I could take them a little bit into my world and share my new perspective with them. And it's very interesting to find like the correct balance in all this transformation. Do you have experiences with that?
Yes, I have tons of experience, especially I feel like in the last little while, because it is so true. Like we're born whole, we're born exactly like in our authenticity, all that we are in that time. And that authenticity is formed by our DNA from generations ago. That's really seated in a lot of the unconscious parts. And I'm realizing now, geez, that human design is really sticking with me, working through a current certification. But the other pieces are like, we're imprinted with an energy right at that get-go from birth. And we rely on other people for survival. And so we lose who it is that we are very heavily in the first 7 years of life because our survival depends on it. And what I mean is like, there's certain things that are going to be deemed acceptable or unacceptable depending on each and every family that you go to. It's going to be so freaking different. And like you turn things up, you turn things down, depending on what is deemed acceptable, depending on what it is that gets you attention, depending on what is deemed safe. And we lose that along the way, but we begin operating that way until we realize that we're maybe not living the life that it is that we truly deeply desire. And until we get to that point, we're not living who it is that we really are. We're just living who it is that we think we are. And it is very confusing because from my perspective, we've been operating that way our whole entire life. And there's a quote that I have loved since the moment I heard it. And this was from Catherine Zinkina. And it was what was it? Oh, I don't want to do any damage to it. We are our wounded 7-year-old versions of ourselves, reenacting those wounds and those traumas in the attempt to heal. And it isn't until we actually acknowledge that we do that healing. But when you've been operating up until that point, to all of a sudden realizing that this isn't working for me and changing those things and reawakening and realizing that you're much more than you ever thought you were. It's overwhelming and you go through so many changes, but that's when you really start doing things for you. And when you start doing things for you and you start acting very differently, there's such a strain on relationships. It's freaking tough, like so freaking tough. Like every single relationship you have is changing, not just with loved ones, but like your relationship with food, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your finances, like literally like how you interact with the world is completely changing. But the thing that's the toughest is those that can respond back to us, those that are used to us operating in a certain way, because now you're creating new boundaries because what was happening before it's not working for you anymore. And so like for me, I've literally seen it change in every facet of my life, like every facet, but like even like down to every single like even down to a relationship with my dog is completely different. But most importantly, like it's especially hard with parents. Like parents are a really tough one because they've known you from the moment you came into their lives to now, but also the ones you love with. And like the ones you live with, like that is a freaking challenge because you're changing right before their eyes. And literally word for word, my husband once said, like, he said, like, you're a completely different person than you were 6 months ago to who you are today. And I can't imagine what that would be like to be on the other side of that. Like 6 months and like you're saying that I was this person and now I'm completely almost unrecognizable to who I am today. Like I'm just operating in a very different way, showing up in a very different way. That would be freaking overwhelming to just be living all of a sudden with someone completely different. Ugh.
Yeah, 100%. It's like, it's like this idea of kind of having like a midlife crisis or something that
Mm-hmm.
has such a negative tone to it. If you, I think in society, you know, like, I mean, if you
Yeah, it
say
does.
like, oh, this person has a midlife crisis, it's not like something like, oh wow, this person has a midlife crisis. It's like, geez, they've gone crazy, you know. And so I feel like this is so sad, because a transformation can be such a beautiful, powerful, and amazing thing that is not like a person going crazy, but it's like a person really awakening and finding themselves and realizing what their mission, what their vision is, and having the balls to go after it. And that is so
Yes.
strong and so beautiful. And it's not something that people should look down on. You know what I mean? It's like so honorable. So how do you feel
Yeah.
about this?
I love that that the concept of the midlife crisis, because that is so true. Like we definitely do look down on like, oh, they're having a midlife crisis. But I mean, I do feel like the midlife crisis is like realizing that things aren't working, and you can go one of two ways. It's like falling deeper and like more magnified of the habits that are not serving you, such as like maybe going out and buying this car. Like those external things aren't going to fix you. It's the internal things that are actually going to fix you and give what it is that you want. Um, oh, see, I have an open head center too. So my thoughts are all over the place. If I get distracted, you're going to have to keep me in line. Um, I
There's no
jump
line,
all
so
over
you're
the
good.
place. So yeah, it is, but it is so funny because like we do get so judgmental of other people, but those judgmental, like those judgments that we hold for other people hold so much wisdom for us, because we can't judge something in someone else if we don't have it within ourselves first. And if you have it in yourself and you're judging someone, that's usually going to be a negative energy. So what is it that you're judging within yourself that you're not giving to yourself? And like the awakening, like that is exactly true, is realizing like, holy crap, like I need to change something. And so you start to awaken to the things that maybe you're not doing that simply just aren't serving you. And you begin realizing, like in my example, like I began realizing all of the things I was doing that was not serving me. So like I used to be a huge people pleaser. And it was like one day where like I used to always complain about my friends, and not about my friends specifically, but more just like I always feel like I do so much work. Like I'm doing 90% of the work. I always have to chase them to hang out. And then that's when I realized that's because I was always operating that way. They're just used to it. And it was a really harsh reality check for me to realize like, like I'm the one that has been creating this, but it's not working for me. It's leaving me depleted. I feel like a relationship should be 50-50. And so when you start changing those things, you're going to start losing it along the way. And now I feel like I'm getting off track a little bit, but I'm trusting I'm here for a reason.
That's okay. I have
Yeah.
actually two questions that came to mind, and they're like so different from one another. Um, the first one is, what would you say to a person who is telling you that they are not really leaning into their transformation because they have the feeling that it might be too late, or that they have essentially progressed too far into their life already to make such a dramatic change or turn it around?
Life is too short. You're never guaranteed tomorrow. Would you not want to just make the most of what you have now? And I think if you want to make the most of what you have now, like if unless you can tell me that you're fully satisfied with what you have right before you, then change is always beneficial. Like there's never any time that's too late to make this change, to start living more of your truth, to start saying yes to the things that genuinely light you up, and saying no to the things that don't actually fit the expectation. Because what I have learned in my journey is you are the most important person in your life, even if you're a mother. And I am a mom. But the reason why I say that is like we absorb so much as kids, so freaking much. And what my daughter sees me doing, she's picking up. That's like literally imprinting in her mind. And if I'm doing things that aren't serving her, well, if I'm doing things that aren't serving me, she's going to get imprinted with that. And that's how she's going to show up in her reality. So, like, I think as my mom is an example, she hustled her ass off to get where she did. So freaking hard. We went from having to make a meal, like one meal lasts us 3 days to be able to afford to just survive. Like we were living off welfare. It was like I was very, very little at this time, but my mom used to tell me these stories to the point where now she's making 6 figures for an income. How freaking incredible. But she had to work so hard. She had to put a lot of her needs aside for us to be able to survive, but also to give to me. But because she did all of those things, I catch myself now being a mom, operating in that way, and literally not giving myself the things that it is that I need to be able to be the best version of myself. So if you're not going to do it for you, you probably still at least want to do it for other people. Like, especially if you're a mom, I think that's just so relatable. But I don't know. I guess I say that because I feel like that's going to hit a woman in the feels because we have, like, all women have that wound of that need to nurture other people. How often is it that we see women coming from a place of making choices for them and just them, knowing that that is exactly what needs to happen? And if that woman is doing that, I can guarantee you she's either going to be known as a selfish bitch or she's going to be known as not nice things. Like, I feel like we've really demonized women who have chose to make actions for themselves. But I know, like, literally firsthand, I can see like the healing that we end up doing, the things that we let go. It's not just for us, it's generational. Like, we hold up to 14 generations of DNA in our systems. But when we hold that space for healing, like, as my psychologist mentioned once, like, this literally blew my mind. He said that him and his wife were doing some really deep healing work one night, and their daughter, who never napped, like, she was never a napper, never tired, she was always just super active and awake and just always doing things, they looked over and she'd passed out in the middle of the afternoon, passed out because of the deep healing that they were doing. So not only is it the healing that we're doing affecting us, but it's literally affecting the people that surround us, creating a better world. Like, which sounds very humanitarian, but that's just who I am.
It's true.
Like, I very deeply, like, something that I've always been very passionate about is, like, if I've ever been in a vehicle, my friends want to litter or throw something out in the ditch, like, I will literally make us pull over and go make them pick it up out of the ditch. And I've always been that way. And not because my parents raised me, because I literally would give them crap because they would do the same thing and I'd make them pull over and go pick that stuff up out of the ditch. So, like, this is just coming, like, that's one unique piece of me that I just couldn't control holding back. But it's just, yeah, creating a better world. And, like, you are important. Like, just saying yes to beginning to say yes to yourself feels fucking amazing. And it, like, even just if you get one day of that, like,
Yes.
it's amazing. So that's what I would say to someone who isn't really truly leaning into that transformation, feeling like maybe it's too late.
I love
It's
that.
never
I
too late.
love that so much. Because, like, just a side note, I mean, I feel pretty young, to be honest, even though I'm half a century, like quarter century old. So it sounds already so old when you say it like this, But I have heard from other people so often when I said because I decided to change career on the day of my graduation. I kind of made it public. So it was like a grand gesture, it was like, I'm done and I'm out. So, and I heard so often the comment like, but then your medical school experience is going to go to waste. I'm like, how is that going to waste? I mean, I'm a doctor and I'm using this knowledge. It's part of me and it's amazing. It's not at all going to waste. So I knew it, but I could see how this can feel different if you don't feel that way deeply within yourself. And also, I think
Yeah.
that there are some people who realize it maybe at any stage of their life, but it's never too late. Like my mom also went through a few difficult times lately. And I think that she has so much still in her life right now that I feel like it's never too late to make this
Never.
transformation. And now I have my second question,
Yes.
which is perfect because we were talking about moms and parents and all these things. Um, do you feel, because I feel like this was a big topic for me, and I'm sure that I'm not the only one in this world with this problem. I have the feeling that many people wait for the approval of their parents because that is something that we learn during our entire childhood. It's like, Mom,
Yeah.
can I have this? Mom, can I do this? And so when you are a grown up and you are suddenly going your own way and claiming the leadership of your very own life, then I found myself doing exactly this, seeking for the permission of um, my caretakers, my mom, my grandfather, and all these wonderful people who are around me. And when the response is not yes, of course you can do that, but like, are you sure? This is kind of weird. Like, is this even the real job? Or maybe it can also be a straight out no. Then what do you do?
So I love that you did acknowledge, because like that is where we are so deeply conditioned from childhood, from the get-go. We become conditioned to make decisions based on our survival. But the thing is, once we reach a certain age, we no longer need to operate that way, because really we don't need them for our survival. And especially in adulthood, like you now are a free being to do whatever the heck it is that you want, but you're now conditioned to seek that validation, seek that approval. So the most important thing to know is nobody, not a freaking single soul on this earth, is really going to truly understand the journey that you're here to experience and to express. So you are the only one that really knows what that is. And you are the only one that needs to actually give that approval and give that validation. And from my own experience, and just from just, I guess, other things that I've heard, stories that others have shared, is that I do typically find that a lot of people do fall away a little bit from their family members as they're going on in this journey, finding themselves, because you've been operating that way for so freaking long, but also you're doing something that they don't understand, especially if they're not on the spiritual path. And I think for like my instance, when I told my parents that I was quitting my job, my stepdad had just said to me, like, you're making a mistake. Like you're leaving great benefits, you're leaving a great paying job, and like you're leaving support, stability, and you're not supposed to love your work. You're just there to work and then be able to have fun on weekends. And I said, I appreciate where you're coming from, and I know that you mean the best, but it's just, I'm sorry. It doesn't need to make sense to you. And I know it makes sense to me, and I'm just going to freaking trust it. But that's the scary part, is I feel like this healing journey, it's developing the ultimate trust within yourself to really get where you want to go. Like that's every yes you say, and the further you get away from what is deemed normal, such as you leaving, and like you literally just graduated and you're saying, yeah, no, I'm done. Like it doesn't matter what other people think. You're the only one that has to deal with the repercussions of your decisions. And there is no better feeling than saying yes to yourself and saying yes to the things that you've been saying no to for so freaking long. Like, because like we literally attempt to do and restructure these things after 7, 8 years old, when our critical faculty develops. And it's like when you can finally get to that point where you're just like, you know what? I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Like for me, I've always dreamed of being an entrepreneur. Not the slightest clue what the hell I would do. Here I am. This is what I'm doing now. But finally giving myself permission to explore that and do that has been like probably one of the most liberating things I could have ever done. Like it has felt so fucking amazing. But then the more you continue to say yes, like it just is so freaking brilliant. So what specifically would I say to those like dealing with the validation? And it's first becoming aware that you are actually seeking that validation, but it doesn't matter what your parents think. It really doesn't, because you are the one that has to live with the consequences of your decisions. And I mean, every parent is going to be different, but I know for me, like my relationship with my mom really drifted, like really drifted to a point where it even hit a bit of a, like we definitely ended up butting heads, and we didn't end up talking for a whole week. And that was freaking rough. And what ended up happening, and now that I see it now, is she basically had said that she didn't like the person I am now, and that she misses the old version of me. And that, like, whenever you become reactive, that's your ego coming out saying like, hey, I'm wounded and this doesn't feel good, and they want to protect. And in that particular moment, that's exactly what happened. Like I didn't get reactive, I felt it, but I just like, that's where I actually got to choose me and say, you know what, if you don't like this new version of me, I'm sorry, but like that's unfortunate, but this is just who I am, and I'm not going to change to accommodate anybody. And man alive, it was terrifying, but it was so liberating at the same time. And it took a week. It took a week for like, I just wanted some time to rest and digest everything that had happened. And I assumed and hoped that she was doing the same. And anyway, she ended up reaching out on the day I intended on reaching out to her. And she said, you know what, I shouldn't have said those things. And I still really want to have a relationship with you. And it just, that's the thing, is it's learning to accept each other with where you're at, not just like the person on the journey, but the person that's with those on the journey. It's accepting who it is that they are, because you can't change them, but you can only change your perspective. And it just, you're doing a gift, like you are truly doing the whole world a service, but you're giving a gift to those that surround you, because you are up leveling yourself beyond anything that you ever thought capable, and that directly impacts them. And it's going to be triggering for them, because their soul on a very deep freaking level wants that too. All of our souls want that, or like that's what our souls, that's what our wounded inner child is attempting for us to do, is to heal those parts so we can become the essence of who it is that we truly are. But yeah, like you begin to trigger. So I feel like that's where people really begin to butt heads. That's why we butt heads, is because you're triggering them. You're doing something that their soul deeply desires, and they're not giving themselves permission to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just also difficult when you have such a new perspective on life. And then there they are, like, this is how I see it. It's like, what is that old school, like where you have like the blinders on a horse where they get just more attention like that, but you've now freed those blinders and you just have such a bigger perspective. But it's also just trusting that the relationships that are really destined and meant to be there will be there. That's been probably one of the most difficult things for me, is trusting that the relationships that serve me will be there. And like if some fall away, it's just trusting that that's for the better of what it is that I need at that time. That's all this really is trust.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's so true what you say. I mean, like, if one party of the relationship is not fully aligned or blooms in the relationship, then the relationship, even if it in theory would prevail, it would not be as cool or as supportive or as amazing as it used to be if there is like one person who cannot be themselves in this relationship. So I think that it is very
Exactly.
important to trust in this process, as you just said. Now I just have another question because we talked about triggering and all these things. So when you start on your transformation journey, on your journey of saying yes to yourself, it is a journey that is scattered with challenges, obstacles, and beliefs
Yeah.
and fears a lot. And my experience was when I started on this journey and I still had like this heavy backpack of troubles that I had, like, when you open the Pandora box, it all comes at you. It's like, oh, actually, you're not self-confident like you thought you are. Maybe you're not capable of doing this. Maybe you're afraid of being seen, afraid of failure, afraid of everything. And so I felt like I was starting on my journey with this heavy backpack. And whenever I would speak with someone who doesn't understand what I'm doing, they had this mystical superpower of putting their finger exactly on this little wound that hurts so much. It's like whenever I was feeling like, oh, I'm so afraid that maybe I might fail or that this would not work out for me, you could be certain that in exactly this week, there would be a person coming my way and saying, like, so are you making any money yet? Is it lucrative? Are you successful? Is it even a real job? I think that this is just a scam. And I'm like, how did you know that I was afraid of all these things? So how do you deal with this situation when you are not only dealing with these fears and questions yourself, but when at the same time some other people point out exactly these wounds of yours?
So I love that because it always is it's always a synchronicity. So we're always being challenged, not always being challenged. Like there's times where things feel easy for sure. But when you're on a transformation journey, you better bet that you are going to be challenged with certain things that are going to present as obstacles to really show up as the version that you say you are. I see it as a gift in that, okay, I'm feeling triggered. Why am I feeling triggered? What is it that is unhealed within me that needs extra attention, love, and support? So it's, yeah, the times that you feel triggered or the times where you feel like it's extra challenging, it's only extra challenging because you need to, it's presenting itself for you to show up as a version of you that you say you are. And if maybe you weren't even quite aware, or you thought that this part of you was healed, I'll say healed, is because those deep rooted beliefs, they're never really going to be fully healed. I think that they'll continue to show up in different facets, different ways. And that's completely okay. But it's just giving yourself permission to bring awareness of, okay, like this person, it's like it's triggering me, it's making me feel uncomfortable. It's just challenging me. It's challenging me to show up differently than how I've been showing up in the past. It's giving me an opportunity to be able to see what it is that I need to give myself to better support. Because I see right now, like you said, I like how you like it's poking a hole at a specific area. And if you think of it, it's essentially a hole that is like in a lifeboat. So how can you patch that up so they can no longer poke a hole or whatever that is? But the thing that I also like, another perspective that came to my mind as soon as you were saying that is we are energetic, like we have that aura, energetic field, and like that that isn't just spiritual, that's scientific. It is very much there. And like, I like the example of like, you go into a room and you can feel the energy of the room. You go to a party, it feels fun, upbeat, happy. Or you go to a funeral and it feels sad. And that's because you're tuning into the energetic aura of everybody. So that goes no different than the interactions we have one-on-one with people. If you have unhealed things where you feel that fear, you feel whatever it is, all that baggage, all of the emotions that you've never allowed yourself to deal with, all of the anger that you hold or resentment you hold from things that you've just never really allowed yourself to feel, that's clogging up your whole freaking aura. It's sitting there waiting for you to deal with it, to heal it, to see it for what it is, because it's just there. It doesn't have to be who it is that you are, which is interesting because that's on a very deep level what I truly believed up until I got into this healing journey of mine. I always just believe this is just who I am. Like, no, it's not who I am. But anyways, that shit's there and it's clogging your auric field. But it, like, until you can heal it and release it, it's going to be there. So people are going to see it. So like if you're on a call with someone and you've got that fear of like, oh, I don't know what it is that I'm doing, people are going to feel that. And they're going to be like, oh, poke, poke. So I think in those particular instances, what a freaking gift. But also, there's also just going to be people that come to you, even if you might not have that fear, and they're just going to be questioning you like, oh, is this a real job or whatever it is that they're pissed about or challenging you on. And it's because you're triggering them. And that's a gift to them. And I mean, it's only really a gift to them until they really truly see what it is, that why they're being triggered, which a lot of us just don't understand. But now I'm getting off track. But
Yeah,
that's my answer.
it's okay. I mean, you have perfectly answered the question, and I love it so much because that was also the solution that I found for myself. I have healed most of these things throughout the Yes Supply program. I worked with wonderful coaches on all these things, and now no one is asking this anymore. It just magically stopped. Like they know nothing about, like, these people who were asking me, they knew nothing about how my business is going or anything. They just see my socials and my public presence essentially, and I am not hearing these questions anymore, or at least I don't feel them anymore. Maybe they are still asked in the same same pace, and I'm just like, yeah, no, of course it's a real job. I mean, like, I know that I can help people and that I can make money, so like, what is this question? But I remember back then that it was like, it felt like really a dagger in my heart, you know. It was like,
Yeah.
what? How you come, you question my legitimacy, you know, like when you struggle with imposter syndrome, people ask you if coaching is a scam. If
Yes,
you
they
are.
do.
So I remember that I used to take it very personally, and I truly think that it's, as you said, it's healing and patching your wounds so that no one can poke at it anymore, and that it just feels like a simple answer to give them. And you are an expert for healing these wounds, I hear. So I know that you cannot explain to us in this podcast how exactly to heal these wounds, but do you have like some of your favorite practices, or practices where you would say that they are very efficient to heal the wounds? Can you do it alone? Do you need a coach? Do you need both? What is your take on that?
And that's where I feel like you can do and accomplish so much on your own, but to get that third point of like not the third point of view, but that outer view, because it's like, oh, me, myself, and I. So fourth point of view, technically. Anyway, sorry.
You and the universe.
Yeah, but to get that outer point of view, I think is really such a gift, because sometimes it is very difficult to understand how we're getting in our own ways. So I am still one that does invest in a coach, because there's going to be things that I just can't see because I'm too freaking close. But the healing things, it's so funny actually, because this is something that really has been coming at me full force the last couple of days. And I'm sitting on a post for it actually, is like decoding your barriers, really. And I think like what I see very often in my sessions is these people are saying to me, this is what I like, this is what I so deeply want. Like, and this is what I'm feeling overwhelmed with. This is what I'm feeling angry about. This is what I'm feeling frustrated. And then it's asking, well, what would make you feel better? Like, what is it that you want for a result? And like in this particular instance, um, this one woman was just saying, I'm so freaking busy. I've got no time. I'm going here, I'm going there. I just wish I had more time. And I said, okay, like time to do what? Well, nothing. I want to have a slower pace. I want to be doing less. Then do less. Like it sounds much simpler, but it doesn't have to be that difficult. It's first like it's becoming aware of what it is that you're wanting so deeply in the first place. So it's like, what is it that you're frustrated over, and what is it that you wish you had instead? And then that will help bring awareness to the things that are not serving you. Because if you're telling me, I'm so tired, I'm so exhausted, and I'm doing all the time, and I wish I just could do nothing. I just want to be still. I want to be more present. Okay, cool. Well, how can you begin to incorporate those things? And what is it that's getting in your way right now that is not serving you in being more present? Because we fill our days, like our whole world is filled with masculine energy. We are in this state of doing, and like to feel accomplished, it's because we're doing and doing and doing. So I think that like it's first asking yourself the questions. Like we don't ask ourselves those deeper questions. We don't ask ourselves those powerful questions. And when we do, it really brings awareness to things that are not freaking serving us. And as soon as you have awareness of, okay, this is what's not feeling good to me, this is what would feel really good to me. And as soon as you have that, it's like you start noticing how you're showing up in your day. You start noticing the thoughts that you have. You start noticing everything that doesn't align with what it is that you wish you had to what it is that you do have. And I think the other piece of all of that too is we just immediately put ourselves in a box to not even ask ourselves those questions. It's like, well, I need to do this and this and this and this, when in reality you don't need to do it, but you've just become conditioned to the point where you feel like you need to do it, if that makes any sense. But once you have the awareness and you catch yourself with your thoughts, with your like, and I also think like, well, I want to be like, I'm tired of feeling shitty. I'm tired of just not being sure of myself. I'm tired of being filled with self-doubt. Okay, well, if you're tired of that, what is it that you are wanting instead? It's the confidence. So what does that confident version of you look like? I guess essentially it becomes that identity. Like you need to get clear on the confident version of you. How is she showing up? What is she doing? And that then brings that more clarity of the things that you're doing that are not serving you. And then you can begin to slowly just make small steps each and every way. And it's being compassionate for yourself, because it's not easy to do change. It's doing something that's like 1% different in every day that creates those big freaking leaps. And yeah, I feel like that'd be my whole freaking answer right there. And actually the one thing I did say and I started talking about was the box. I feel like we automatically put ourselves in the box. And the other thing to ask yourself is, if there's something that you feel like, for example, well, I could never be confident. List the reasons of why you don't feel like you couldn't be confident. and there's some of your limiting beliefs. Start poking holes at them, understanding, why do I feel this way? Why do I think this way? What is it that maybe I've seen in my childhood? Because 100% you would be capable of anything. Like, anything is freaking possible in this world. So if there's a reason that you don't feel like it is possible, on the opposite spectrum of what you're saying you don't like to what it is that you do want, if you're saying it's not possible, begin listing why you don't think it's possible and start understanding that better and breaking those. But there is so much freaking value in someone that is that I guess I'm not a person that likes to push certifications, but there's a lot of value also in certifications in this space. So yeah, it is just completely, is invaluable the word I'm looking for? Like, it just, words cannot express what I get when I work with a coach, because there's just things that, like, it's sometimes very difficult. Like, it's very easy for me to listen to someone while they're talking and for me to be writing a list of things that are no longer working for them. But as you're saying that, you're just so caught up and so close to the situation that it does make it a little bit more difficult. But do not get me wrong, there's so much that you can accomplish in your own personal journey. But there's, like, I strongly believe that working in tandem with a coach will just give you the results that you're so deeply wanting and needing. But it's also, like, in my personal experience, doing this deep healing, doing this personal transformation where you're coming into the essence of who it is that you really are, there's no way I could have done it alone. Not, well, I mean, I could have, but it would have been awful, just because it is very uncomfortable. Like, you're dealing with all the things that you've been ignoring your whole freaking life. So not only have I had coaches, and not only did I get to have extra support while going through Yes Supply, and like with the cohort and practicing with my fellow students, fellow classmates, big word of the day apparently. But not only did I have that, but I also had my psychologist. Like, I still had monthly sessions with my psychologist to support me even deeper, because it is a lot of things you're moving and processing. So in my personal experience, I, hands down, if anything, I would have invested in a coach even more than I already have, because it's just that freaking supportive. But I mean, you can hire all the coaches you want, but you also need to be doing the work. You need to be, like, you're still going to be doing 90% of the work. 10% is just the space that they hold for you.
Yes, I completely agree with you. And I think that this is so true what you say. I mean, you can go a long way on your own. And by the way, to our dear viewers, if you would like to get more clarity on the version of yourself that is confident, there is a future self meditation on this YouTube channel that you can go and listen to. And that is going to help you to get a very clear vision of this confident, badass version of yourself. So I just needed to slide that in really smoothly here.
Heck yeah.
But as you said, it is so incredible what happens when you work with a coach. I would have never thought it. And actually, when I discovered coaching, I discovered it because I was writing my thesis work about the mental health of the medical students at my faculty. And so I was exploring what could healthy coping mechanisms with stress and all these things look like, because I had no idea. I didn't even know that coaching exists. And I was looking on the internet how you can cope with stress better than using beer, party, and rock and roll. So,
Mind-numbing things.
Yes, exactly.
That's what we've been very conditioned to do, is numb our minds.
Yeah,
Sorry.
exactly. That is also what most of the students answered in in my study paper. So I was like, come on, there needs to be something better than this. And so I came across this kind of mindfulness practices and all these more spiritual things and also EFT tapping and all these things. I was like, "What tapping? What is this?" I was like, "What?" And so I had opened a kind of door to a whole other realm, and I was so amazed. I was like, "Okay, so how come that I am almost a doctor and I have never heard of all these things, like not even remotely?" And so I was like, "Okay, well, let's explore these things." And so I decided, for the purpose of my research, to invest in a coach myself because I thought, like, I'm a student and I'm researching on this, so it's basically for the science. And I did not see that coming. This was the most transformative 6 weeks of my life. I decided to actually become a coach in these 6 weeks and get certified in mental training, because I knew from the first day I stepped into medical school that this was not the right path for me. I had told my family every single time we had like a call with my mom and my grandfather. I was like, "Yeah, so the exam period is starting soon, but I really don't want to be a doctor. I think I'm going to do something else after med school. Okay, gotta study. Bye." So you already see, like, okay, what the fuck? And so this was my life. And it never occurred to me that actually I have a choice. And I know this sounds
Right?
so stupid, but
No, not at all.
I
I felt the
never,
same way.
I never realized that I have the choice and that I can do whatever I want. I was like, "Oh no, but I have to study medicine because I don't know what else to study, and this would make my family happy." And oh, of course I have to finish it because I have already studied for 3 years, so I can't stop now. What? Like, yeah, you can do everything that you want. I mean, you can technically become a background dancer for video clips if you want to do, so I mean, yeah. And it never occurred to me until I was asked this question in the coaching session. I think it was even the first question this coach asked me. It was like, "What do you want?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know. Like, I know what I don't want." Study medicine, but that's yeah.
But it's
And
just not a question we conditioned to ask ourselves.
yeah, and
We're conditioned to react.
exactly. This was like life changing. And honestly, I was completely blown away. I became a certified mental trainer, and then I started coaching students, and then I left. And now I am in this alternative kind of medicine, and I'm loving it so much. And I am beyond grateful that the universe has led me to invest in this coaching program and go down that path. So I completely relate to what you said, Alicia, that it is so incredibly valuable to work with a coach. And it is so amazing what this outside perspective can do. And maybe to our listeners or viewers, it can sound like, yeah, I mean, of course, it's like, of course you have a choice, but I can almost guarantee you that in your life, there is a problem that could be solved by a powerful question. And in my life too, it's like, I cannot stop working with coaches because every time I work with a coach, it's like a new door to new possibilities is opening. And I get a little bit more of these I things removed, and this is like I feel like it's a never ending growth journey. And
It
so
is.
it is so amazing because you just get to discover so many things that you were not able to see or resolve or live before, and it just feels so incredibly amazing. So now
Liberating.
to finish this little episode with the cherry on the top, I would like to know how our viewers can find you and if they feel called to work with you, if you have any amazing offerings at the moment, or if you're planning on creating any offerings in the future.
Yeah. So I know I said this kind of at the beginning, but I really work with women to find the essence of who it is that they are, which when you operate in your essence of who it is that you are, that's where you find your full sovereignty or all of your power. And so for me, right now, I do have it's actually turning into a 12-month container where it's essentially just walking you through the whole process of there's neuroscience, there's spirituality in there, and it's just helping you explore who it is that you think you are to who it is that you really truly are, the essence of who it is that you are. And what that looks like right now is there are videos that are recorded, and it's more or less just a program, but I don't like how I said that. More or less just a program. It's a stellar program.
It's
Anyways,
the best program ever.
yes. So it's a 12-month program, but in addition to that, it's just depending on what, like how it is that you're wanting to invest, like what your investment options are. Because I'm one who really wants to be able to support those in all stages. So you have the program, but then there will be the monthly live Q&As that you would have. And I really like the concept of doing so this is something that has really evolved for me over the last couple of months. I already have some people in the container that are kind of helping guide everything in here. But anyway, so like their intention setting ceremonies, but then if you want to invest a little bit more in yourself and get that one-on-one where you have a 90-minute coaching session with me monthly, or maybe it'll be every 2 months, there are those options to really just help support you in your journey to becoming who it is that you are, to live to leave your limited life and walk into a limitless life, because that is what we're here to experience. And when you live who it is that you authentically are, you're more living in a place of just being and not living in a place of having to do all the freaking time. And that's really just my goal for you, is to connect to that essence of who it is that you are. Something else right now that I'm currently kind of doing not trial, but exploring, is I'm currently working with infertility as well. So I have one particular client that is in kind of like a 9-week bi-weekly one-on-one session where I just support her in her infertility journey, because it's been a while of her trying and not getting that success. And it's a very difficult place to be. It's something that I went through myself, and it was really freaking tough. The mental aspect, but also just not understanding and feeling desperate for answers because you're not getting what it is that you want. And I believe it should be much easier than what it is. So that's what I'm currently exploring and working with, and there will hands down be a place for that. I really feel called to do some kind of community for the infertility world, just to show a little bit more love. And actually, fun fact, I'm going to be doing my first ever fertility goddess circle on the next new moon, just to hold space for one another and just bring to mind things that we're wanting to release, but also what we're wanting to welcome in, and just kind of give a little bit more clarity. And then I also do one-on-one sessions right now. And I also do one-on-one sessions where it's coaching and really helping you move through the barriers. But I also do offer one-on-one readings as well, where it's just a lot of me channeling information that you need at that time. But it's still I still really thrive off of interaction. So it's not just me sitting there and pouring my heart out of what I'm receiving. It's a little bit of both, a little bit of challenging, but a lot more of me just giving you some powerful information to get you to that next step. So right now I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram at Higher Conscious Babe. And my website is I've been going through a rebrand for the last couple months. My website hopefully will be up by maybe in the next week or two, which would just be higherconsciousbabe.com. And that's where I'm at. And that's what I do.
Perfect. Honestly, this is like so amazing. When you were talking about this this fertility new moon ritual, I got like kind of chills because it sounds like so wholesome and so powerful. And okay, I'm going to share my deepest secret with all of you now. It is, I am terrified of children. And so for me, this entire topic about having kids, dealing with kids, talking with kids, playing with kids is terrifying for me. And it feels like I'm instantly like, just like, oh God, I don't know how to do this. Maybe I can do something wrong. And this is really something, I know it's a very strange fear to have, but I really don't know how to speak with children either. Like for sometimes some younger kids come to visit, and there are these people who are just like with a very high pitched baby voice. They are able to find a level of communication with tiny humans, and for me, I'm just like, okay, I don't know what to say. I'm like, hello, sir.
I used to be that way, literally. Like I had zero experience with kids up until I basically had mine. I did not know how to interact with kids at all.
Yeah, I mean,
So
like,
no judgments.
this is definitely something that I'm gonna explore at some point, I think. But why was I even saying this? Oh, yes, because I think that your work is so incredibly important. And I feel like what you're doing for these women, helping them through this difficult journey and being there with them and helping them with your expertise as a coach, as a medium, and also with your very own experience, I think is truly an amazing and life-changing impact that you can have for these people. And so I just want to say that I absolutely love your mission and your work and how you're doing all of this. And also, I know how amazing your coaching is. And so I can really feel how powerful this new moon ritual is going to be. And I'm starting to believe that if I ever would want to have kids, I will definitely be there at your new moon ritual. And
Thank
so that
you.
being said, I will put all your links and all your information in the description down below, so you can go and check Alyssa out and find out more and be part of her universe and her corner of the internet. Thank you so much for joining our YouTube video podcast. I never know what to call it because it's not a podcast, but whatever. So thank you so much for being part of our space, for sharing your knowledge with us and not holding back and giving us wholesome answers. It was amazing.
So much fun. Thank you for having me. Like this was so much fun. Can you tell I like talking?
Yeah, it was
Thank you
very,
so much.
I never prepare because I feel like it's so much more fun if we just go with the flow of the conversation. So
Yeah, intuition. I love it. Intuition is like a person's gold, always.
yes, absolutely. It exactly is. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching. If you like this episode, you can, of course, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, go and follow Alyssa and like and subscribe everything as well. And we're sending you so much love and see you in the next video.